Welcome to the Scrappy Entrepreneur Podcast, the show that brings you practical, informative tips from the trenches to help you thrive and prosper as an entrepreneur. Whether you're just beginning your journey or working to grow your existing business, this show is for you. And now, your host, the original Scrappy Entrepreneur, Paula Y.
Okay, everyone. Welcome to the Scrappy Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm Paula Yakubik, coming to you not live, from Las Vegas, Nevada. And today I thought about mixing it up a little bit and bringing in one of my favorite employees from MassMedia. He is Zachary Krassin. He is MassMedia's digital marketing director. And I have been working with Zach. It's been a pleasure for the last couple of years. And he really works with a lot of our Scrappy Entrepreneur clients, helping them place their digital media, see results. And I thought, I'm going to bring Zach into the studio today to talk about digital, because I know a lot of you Scrappy entrepreneurs out there are thinking about how to get digital to work for your company, what's trending, what's hot, what's new. And so thank you, Zach, for coming in today.
Hello. Thank you, Paula. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. So, Zach, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, that's a loaded question, right? So I have been in digital media and advertising for about 10 years now. I started at a Fortune 500 company in New York City.
You're from New York?
I'm from New York, and I actually moved out to Vegas to start my own company.
You're a Scrappy entrepreneur
I am a Scrappy entrepreneur as well.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes.
So I started a skincare line, and my business model drove me to Vegas. And the line actually became pretty successful in its own right, and it was self-sustaining, and I went back to work.
Nice.
And that's when I discovered MassMedia and all it had to offer.
Right. And then you also had a stint at L'Oreal in New York, right?
Right. That was the company that I worked for before. It was a great company. I had a lot of fun there. I learned a ton. And
what did you do with L'Oreal?
Yeah, so I worked, so L'Oreal has a number of different brands under them. I worked for a brand called Matrix, which is a hair care company. It was like a luxury or a salon product. And I worked in marketing for them. So I did a lot of their paid placements, really got involved with social, some search, got involved in SEO for a while. And then that's when I started kind of falling in love with product development, and that's when I created my own product.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So which do you like better, New York or Vegas?
I actually like Vegas a lot more than New York, I think. I think I love New York, but the problem with New York is it's just very expensive.
Expensive.
It's so expensive. So now I can enjoy New York when I go visit, because I can enjoy everything that it has to offer, as opposed to before I felt like I was just working to live there.
Don't you feel like Las Vegas embraces its young and embraces its entrepreneurs?
So much. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
There is an energy here that is unparalleled. It's really nice. I really do enjoy being in Vegas. And I feel like you get the city experience and you have the residential experience. You kind of get a mix of everything.
Yeah. Do you feel like you could have started your business and been successful in New York City? Because I feel like in those deep established cities, they're just locked in with old families and it's so hard to get in. But in Vegas, it's like you could be in the CEO of a big company's office they just really embrace their young.
I agree with that. I also think that, my mission for my company was I was focused on specific salons. And I feel like in New York, it is so competitive. And I feel like there's something about Vegas where people will come from all over and they almost discover things in Vegas that may not exist outside of it, and they bring it back with them. That was the mindset that I had, right? That it was going to become this underground staple, my product. And then as people came to Vegas, they would experience it, and it would almost be like free outreach. It would just continue to spread.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was kind of the plan behind it. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now you are working with a variety of clients, helping them with all things digital. You work with corporate clients, big healthcare clients. a lot of different B2C clients as well. Tell me, I want to dive into our Scrappy Entrepreneurs digital footprint.
Sure.
A lot of our clients have big companies. A lot of them have small. A lot of them are just startups. A lot of Scrappy entrepreneurs are just thinking about starting their own business. I have always thought about the website as the nucleus to everything that you do.
100%.
It's so important that, I look at my website every day and say, how can I improve it? Because it's like my biggest billboard out there. Anyone who hears my name, hears my company's name, wants to know more about me, they're coming to my website. And I feel like my website needs to be top-notch. It should be updated regularly. But I meet a lot of scrappy entrepreneurs who don't think like that. Tell me about the website and why it's so important.
Well, there's a couple of things to it, right? So when you are first introducing somebody to your brand, that's probably the first impression that they're going to get of you.
Correct.
So right front and center is going to be your messaging. It's your own channel. You have full control of it. There's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be impressed and be able to get all of the information that they really do need. So that's first, right off the bat. I think the second piece of it, though, is the advertising and outreach piece, right? It is crazy to me sometimes where you see companies really willing to invest so much money for outreach to drive back to a website that may not be well designed enough to actually secure leads. So at the end of the day, your website, like I said, is that first impression, and it's the way that you're going to garner a lot of your success. And it is something that should be paid attention to before you start all of those outreach efforts.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that before you even begin an outreach effort, whether it be Facebook ads, digital ads, anything, that it's all going to be driven back to your website to convert that lead. And so your website has to be set up in a certain way to be able to convert the lead, really.
Yep, and to be able to track it, right? So digital is amazing because you are able to create attribution models and be able to build trackable links so you can really see how well your campaigns are working. And you can even see a bit more insight, like page analytical data, like your Google Analytics, where you can see, okay, well, people are coming to the website, but what are they doing? Are they bouncing right away? Are they leaving to go view certain pages of the site? Are they calling? And all of that information is then taken and used to optimize our campaigns.
Right.
And it's really important to be able to set yourself up for success so we don't launch a campaign, spend X amount of dollars and go, I can't tell you if it's working or not.
Right.
That is the biggest fear that I have for some people who don't start the process correctly.
Right. So a lot of our clients also come to us, and these are big clients, you'd be amazed, and they think that you can get a website for $2,000. They think their cousin's brother's daughter's husband who took a class in web design can design their website. I'm finding that a typical low-end website is going to cost you about a minimum of 10 grand. Is that what you're seeing nowadays?
Yeah, I am seeing that. You can make a website for whatever you want, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be as good or as not good as the resources and time and energy you're putting into it. But you really should consider doing a website that's going to benefit you. And at the end of the day, it is going to cost you something in order to be successful with that.
Right. And like you said, anyone can go out and do their own website. But when you hire an agency, a marketing strategist is coming in to look at your company, to look at what you're offering, to create a user experience, to looking at or developing the design of the website, looking at photography, copy, all of that. So all of that together is about a minimum $10,000. But I'm really finding that even if you go to an online designer or a freelance designer and you use a production people out in India to program it, you're still at, $7,000.
Right. And at the end of the day, also, it is convenient to have somebody who recognizes the process be able to take it from start to finish. Because if you start hiring against different lanes, it just becomes complicated because what I've seen in the past where, somebody might say, okay, I'm just going to go to a designer and they're going to design it. Then I'm going to go to a developer and I'm going to give them the comps and say, develop this. But, maybe that designer isn't designing for digital. That happens so many times. So then the developer doesn't really understand, well, how am I supposed to develop this with responsiveness in mind? So then all of a sudden you have a decent website on desktop, but your mobile experience is not good. And as we know, more often than not, people are on websites through their mobile devices. It is key to make sure that you have an experience that extends beyond just one view.
Right.
And that happens more times than not. Another time is maybe a designer who isn't as experienced in the growth of a company. And so a website will be designed, it will be developed, and then in a year and a half, it will need to be redesigned and redeveloped because the company has grown in a way that outgrows the website. And a lot of times, that's how templatized websites are too. A company might say, I'm going to just go onto GoDaddy and I'm just going to use this template and I'm going to plug and play. And that will work in that moment because you'll say, okay, great, I know what I need it to look like now. But your website should be evolving and changing. And in 1 year, it might not look like that. And now you have to start that whole process over again.
These clients that think that they can have a website and spend that money and then I'm going to have it for 10 years. It's just not going to work.
It's not going to work. And the big buzzword right now, or one of them, right, is organic search ranking, right? So SEO. And a lot of those templatized websites aren't really designed with SEO in mind. And a lot of developers, I've noticed, unless you're really working with a developer that understands organic search, there's a science behind it, and it needs to be part of your strategy. How you're tagging your site, how you're uploading your images with certain tags, that all comes into play in a strong website.
So when you go to an agency, you have a team of people that are looking at the design, the development, and the SEO to help bring it all together under one roof for you.
Correct.
Rather than going to various different vendors, bringing them all together, getting them coordinated, and hopefully doing it right so you don't have to redo it again. Because Zach, you and I deal with a lot of clients who come, they're ready to do digital campaigns, but we have to redo their whole website to get them going.
100%.
Yeah. So after we get the website as part of the digital footprint, the next part is, of course, SEO, like you talked about. And we won't dive deep into SEO because it's so technical, but everyone, you're going to want to SEO your site for organic rankings. The next thing is, social channels. So most of our clients, and you see that social cannot be overlooked anymore. You have to have social channels that are out there engaging with your target audience. There's not an audience that really isn't engaging on social media. So tell me about the prevalence of social media and why it's so important on a digital footprint for our Scrappy companies.
Sure. So it's funny. This is one of those topics where you're either all in or you don't believe in it whatsoever. So sometimes I have clients who have every single social channel, and sometimes I have clients who don't believe in it. And it's funny because I don't think not all social channels do the same things. And so I think that it's really important when you're, as a business owner, or for us, when we're discussing strategy, to figure out what channels make the most sense to be able to communicate and effectively engage with your audience, because
Correct.
They are on social.
They are on social.
They are 100% on social. Whether, and I have a lot of clients who go, well, we're B2B. We don't need to worry about that. I go, but have you considered LinkedIn? LinkedIn is having this resurgence all of a sudden with huge amounts of people who are going on and engaging with that content. And that is designed for businesses in mind.
Right.
There is always going to be a social play because that's where people are found that will engage with your brand.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about video.
Sure.
What is happening with video? Because it's huge now, right?
So video is definitely the way in which people want to consume content.
Right, meaning they don't want to read it, they don't want to hear it, they love to watch it.
Content has evolved significantly over the last couple of years. I remember when I was at L'Oreal 10 years ago, the content was designed to be, some of the posts were like paragraphs long. That was the thing. To be able to communicate effectively was to be able to just write a lot. Then as social started to evolve, there were a lot of different ways in which you could build organic and paid content. And video is certainly the hot buzzword right now, and certainly the way that people are liking to engage with content. Because video can evoke an emotion that text can't. You can tell a story, you can be much more present and be able to kind of put a face to a brand a lot of times, and people appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I also think that as you're scrolling over your news feeds, video can stop the scroll at times. People get hooked on that those first couple of moments are so key when you're making a video, because the goal is to hook someone enough to say, hold on, I'm going to pause for a second and I'm going to watch this content. Okay, now I learned something.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So aside from video, is there anything else that you're seeing on social as trends that companies should be looking out for?
I think that a really strong rule of thumb is if you are on a social channel and a new product or a new offering for that channel comes available. So let me give you an example, Facebook Live. So that's a new product that Facebook has. All those social channels are going to prioritize those types of content in order to encourage people to use it.
Okay, good to know.
So if Facebook Live just came out, for example, it would be very valuable for you as a business to take advantage of that new product, because when Facebook Live first came out, firstly, they pinged every single person that was a follower. They got a notification letting you know you went live. That's an amazing amount of outreach for organic, and it was free.
Right.
Those types of things are always very valuable. So anytime a new product comes out for any social channel that you're a part of, make sure to figure out, how can I take advantage of this? What is a strategic way in which this could benefit me? And then test it.
That's good. And the other thing I want to say here, and I'm sure you can back me up, is on video, is gone are the days that you have to produce really high-end, highly produced, perfect videos, right? Those are gone. We can shoot authentic videos pretty quick. You can shoot authentic videos on your phone and upload them to social for free. So I want all you scrappy entrepreneurs to know that I do think that you should spend money on your website. I think your website should be great. But I think when it comes to uploading videos, they don't have to be perfect. They really don't. They can be authentic, they can be raw, they can be shot, and they're very, very useful. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, that was actually going to be another point I was going to bring up, especially on social media. I think that raw content does seem to do better with that audience, because people don't want something so overly produced when they're on social. I think they can tell. I think they're able to connect to the content a lot more. So I definitely agree with you on that.
Good. Because if you didn't, we'd have a problem. Just joking. All right. So under the digital footprint, we talked about the website. We talked about social. Anything do you want to talk about for paid channels on the digital side?
Sure. Well, there's a lot that you can go into for this one, right? So, when our clients come to us and they say that we have a particular campaign, whatever the budget is and whatever the goal is, and really what that digital footprint looks like, is going to give us a little insight in which digital channels that we would want to focus on. So they're the big three, right? So you have social. Mm-hmm. Realistically, that looks heavily on Facebook and on Instagram, but plenty of times I see Twitter as well.
Mm-hmm.
I see LinkedIn as well. You then have search. And again, more times than not, it's Google. Google is not the top search engine and the top website because it's trendy. It's because the algorithm is just so advanced that it knows what you want almost before you're even searching for it. It's very scary accurate. So you have social, you have Google search, and then you have display, which is really banner advertisements and things of that nature. And that's really widespread outreach. So those are the big three. And then you could break them down even further, right? You have Yelp, you have connected television, you have Amazon, and then you can go to Site Direct, so you can find websites directly that would be really well affiliated to a particular brand and buy direct from them. So the list expands.
So what you're telling me and all of our listeners really is, if we want to dive into digital advertising, which is really targeting really drilling down deep and being able to target who our end market is, that there's a variety of options. How does one decide which is the best for them?
I think it, again, comes down to, I think there are a couple of major decisions you have to make up front. So I think one is, let's take a look at what are our creative opportunities.
Right, because creative plays into it, right?
A huge piece.
What assets do you have to deploy?
Right. So a lot of times we are pushing out content and we are working with the client to provide those assets. If the client has some video assets that are really great for social, that raw content we were just talking about, certainly I would suggest social. But if it's too raw, I might say that might not be the best play for something like connected TV or over-the-top video,
right,
which is still a little bit more well-produced along the lines of like linear television. And then on top of that, I might also consider different goals for the campaign. So if we're really focused on driving lead gen, for example, I would really probably put a lot of efforts into search, which I know is an intent-based channel. And I know that that's where we're going to yield the highest success.
So we want to look at search when there's a needs-based intent. So I'm looking for an urgent care. I'm looking for a CPA. So I go into Google, I type in CPA near me, and these Google AdWords show up. So that's Google search.
Correct.
Is there anything else under Google search other than paid AdWords that you can purchase?
Yes. So you can do paid AdWords, and then you can also go on what's called the Google Display Network. And that is similar to the display I was just talking about, which is when it's pushing out banner, either images, it can be video, it could be animated GIFs or animations. And essentially what those are is if you're going on websites, a lot of times websites that are bidding against the open exchange, you'll see advertisements. So if you go to any news site, will have them where on the right-hand rail, you'll see an ad. If you refresh and you see a different ad in that same spot, that would be through the Google Display Network or through a DSP.
So a lot of scrappy entrepreneurs out there don't place their own ads, but a lot do.
Yep.
So can they do the Google Display Network? Is it possible for someone like, okay, you know me, I'm a scrappy entrepreneur, I own MassMedia, but could I go figure it out? Is it hard?
So,
I mean, I could probably figure out search, and I know a lot of our scrappy entrepreneurs do their own search, correct? Yes. What about this Google ad display?
So I think there are things for digital advertising that you could figure out and things that
Why would I want to use you, Zach?
I think that there are a lot of times in particular media vehicles, you're in them a lot. It just takes a lot of time to be able to reap the benefits that you really want to. There's a lot of optimizations that happen in some of these channels to be able to get the results you're looking for. And I think that you could do it, but there would be a huge learning curve, and I think it would just take a lot of time. And at the end of the day, I think that there are moments when you say to yourself as a scrappy entrepreneur, this is worth my time, and this is not worth my time. And there are certain channels that I think you can probably figure out, and certain channels that have built-in algorithms that are a lot more seamless. And then there are some that are a little bit more difficult.
So on Google Search Display Network, are you how do you do that? Like,
Sure.
do you bid, like, do you use a bidding system?
Yeah, so we use a programmatic DSP.
What is a DSP?
Sure, it's a demand-side platform.
Okay.
And essentially, it's an automated bidding platform. So it taps into different exchanges and it bids in real time.
And what's an
in a matter of
exchange?
seconds. So an exchange makes up a network of different websites.
A network like Entrepreneur, SportsCenter, ESPN.
Right. So there's just a lot of different categorizations of websites that all fall under these exchanges.
What's a typical category? Sports?
No. So the categories don't really, so that's more how you would target. The categories all are in different exchanges, right? So it's not necessarily like all the sports are in one. You can do it that way in something called a private marketplace, which is a, how do you explain it? It's like it's a marketplace that's for very specific buyers, and it is premium content only, and it is category based a lot of times. So I could find specific categories of websites and even target audience demographics. That's what I could do there. But really, exchanges are just a collection of all the websites. And then I can, with my targeting, determine the types of websites or the types of content I'd like to focus on. A lot of times, we don't necessarily focus on the type of a website because we're focused on people, right? So at the end of the day,
the target.
The target audience. So I might not necessarily mind, even if I'm looking for someone sports related, and I probably would use a collection of websites associated to sports. But if that person who's interested in sports goes on Fox News, or they go on CNN, or they go to ESPN.com, I don't much mind, right? Because I'm looking at the person. So that's probably how my targeting would be layered on.
Okay. So we talked about search there. And then on social, there are just so many great ads that you can put out on Facebook, right? What other social ads are there other than Facebook?
So the different types of ads on Facebook, there's so many. So I think social is a really great way to advertise because, as we talked about, your audience is there, right? But there's a ton of different robust targeting opportunities because you're technically behind first-party audience-driven data. So Facebook knows you, Paula, right? So when you log in and you're liking things and you're commenting and you're using the platform, that's all first-party data that Facebook knows about you. So when I go back in and I try to find people like you, Facebook says, not only do I think I know somebody that fits this mold, I know somebody who fits that mold. So it's a really powerful tool to be able to bridge the gap and find the right types of people. Social advertising really does work. So many times I hear people say, I was just talking about this product and all of a sudden it just appeared. Are they listening to me? And it's, no, they're not actually listening in on your conversations and then serving you ads, but it just knows you that well.
Wow.
It is pretty powerful. But there are a lot of different ad platforms that exist within all of the different social channels. So for Facebook, I could do a campaign that is driven for video. I can drive traffic to a website. I can focus on lead gen, which is I could have someone fill out an intake form without even leaving the platform, which is really powerful and has worked really well for us in the past. There are carousel ads, so I can have a number of visuals, product ads to really showcase specific e-commerce. It's just endless. And not all ads are really designed with one thing in mind. Sometimes I've used different ads for what they're intended to be, and they've performed very well.
And it's not a huge price point, right? I mean, is there a big entry fee here?
No. So technically, in terms of what you can spend, it's all CPC and CPM based.
What's CPC and CPM?
Sure. So it's cost per click or cost per thousand. So you're really paying every time someone clicks the ad, or you're paying based on the amount of times the ad is seen. So a lot of times we'll pay on a CPC model, meaning if your ad is served on social and 2 people click and 100 people saw it, you're only paying for those 2 clicks. So you're getting a lot of outreach and you're really just paying for the click.
Right.
You can put whatever budget you want, but I'm caveating that with, there is a strategy behind marketing dollars. You can't just say, I can budget whatever I want, so I'm going to do $10. $10 is not going to get you very far.
Right.
You need to be smart and say to yourself, what are my goals? And how do I align my goals with the expectations of a campaign? I always say, the biggest thing I always focus on is outcomes versus outputs. That's my favorite analogy, right? So I'm focused as a marketer on outputs. Outputs would be, if I'm looking at leads, if I'm focused on driving leads, I'm going to try to drive the most amount of leads possible. And I know that there's a certain budget in mind to be able to achieve this goal. On the flip side of that, there's outcomes. So let's say I get 10 leads. and only one is a viable lead and it becomes a sale, well, my outcome is one. I can't go to my clients and say, well, I got you 10 leads.
Right.
They don't care that I got them 10 leads. They don't care if I got them 1,000 leads. They care that I got that one outcome. So it's really being able to say to myself, how much money did I need to spend to get all these leads? And what is the viability of those leads? So it's important to really think through the entire chain. And there's dollars behind that.
Right. So I want to dive a little bit into connected TV. A lot of people don't know what connected TV is. And to be quite honest, I didn't know until I listened to your webinar a couple days ago. And I learned a lot. And in the simplest of forms, what is connected TV?
Sure. So connected TV is the device in which you would watch over-the-top video content.
What is over the top?
Sure. So I'm going to give you the definition, and then I'm going to give you the example, because that's the easiest way, right? So it is over-the-top video content is streaming content through an app or through a website, and it bypasses traditional distribution models, and it's delivered on a broadband internet source that's not affiliated with the video provider. I know that sounds like a lot, so I'm going to break it down.
Okay.
Hulu. Hulu is my favorite probably over-the-top streaming content. When I watch Hulu, I watch it through an app, or I could log into hulu.com and I can watch it there.
So you have your favorite show and you have a subscription to Hulu and you watch it on Hulu.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, when I watch it through a Cox broadband internet connection. But that broadband internet connection is not affiliated with Hulu whatsoever.
Right. So you're bypassing them.
Correct. So Hulu is actually sitting over the top of Cox. And in some ways, it's actually competing with Cox's own video services.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
Interesting.
Video streaming content it can be free. It could be through a paid subscription. It could be live. It could be on demand. There's a lot of different ways in which to watch. And they could be viewed on a number of different platforms. So the most popular ones are traditional digital platforms. So mobile, tablet, laptop. The second way is through a television. If that television is a smart TV or it connects through an internet source, it is a connected TV device. If it is not a smart TV or it doesn't have internet, there are over-the-top devices that can plug in that will be able to distribute that content. So
really quick, so over-the-top TV means I'm watching I'm watching television and you're serving ads to me because I'm on a smart TV and it's over the top of regular TV?
It's over the top of the internet.
Oh, the internet.
Correct.
And since I'm using my tablet or my TV with the internet, I can...
you can stream it through that way.
Right.
Yep.
And what's so powerful about this is that Hulu knows you, right? Hulu knows when you created the account, you put in your birthday, you put in where you live, your zip code, and then it gets to know you, like you said, right? So when I want to place an ad and I want to hit a male between your age and your zip code with your preferences, I can then target my ad to you, correct?
Yeah. So what's really great about over-the-top video content is, and I'll use connected television as a way to phrase it. When I'm watching through a connected TV, I am getting the experience of linear television, which is the best way to experience TV, right?
What is linear television?
Sure, like cable TV. So I'm sitting at home comfortably on a big screen watching television.
Okay.
That is the experience of linear television, but it gives me the opportunity to target them through digital means. And it is much more advanced and sophisticated targeting. So you're right. So when I look at Hulu, I say to myself, there's a ton of first-party audience data that Hulu knows about you that is able to use to find the right people and to optimize those campaigns.
What are the other bigger over-the-top television companies like Hulu? What are the other ones? So there's Roku, Hulu.
So there are direct publishers. So that might be, there's a ton of apps. So CBS All Access, HGTV.
So those are direct publishers.
Correct.
So if I wanted to go and if I was starting a cooking blog and I wanted to go to HGTV and place on Chet, what's his name? What are those people's names out of Waco?
Right? Oh my God, Chip and Joanna.
Yeah, okay. I want to place on Chip and Joanna's show. I can do that.
Yeah, so you would create you would have a connection with the publishers directly.
Is that hard to contact them?
No. So they definitely have opportunities for advertising. Things to keep in mind, there will be minimum campaign lengths and there will be minimum costs. And I can't necessarily say what those costs will be because it really does depend on the publisher
Can you
itself.
buy just individual shows or do you have to go to CBS All Access and buy a broad?
No, you'd be able to. There's a number of different ways that you could buy through those publishers directly.
What are their typical minimums?
They range. I mean, I've seen them as low as maybe 10 grand a month.
So that's high for some people, but that's the low.
Right.
That's the entry point.
There could be lower just depending on which publishers you're directly focusing on. But yeah, some of the bigger players, I mean, HGTV, the Food Network, some of those are pretty big.
Right. And it sounds like you can go direct to publishers or you can buy a broad network.
So you can go direct to publishers. There's also content aggregators. So content aggregators would be like a Hulu, which is Hulu doesn't necessarily own all of the content. They're just streaming it. So like when I go to HGTV, there's a number of different programs that I could watch, but they're all associated to HGTV network. When I go to Hulu, I might find a show on ABC. I might find a show on Fox. I see original content. It's aggregating a lot of content. So that's another way that you can buy. That's a lot more expensive, but it also offers you a lot of really great premium content. And sometimes there's a huge value there. Not sometimes, there is a huge value with that, right? And there's a lot of first-party data, so they can really do a good job at finding the right people. And then the third way is through a programmatic DSP, which is similar to the tool that we use for our display advertising.
So what is a DSP again?
No worries. So a DSP is a demand-side platform, and it's really an automated bidding tool. So it bids in real time, and they have the opportunity to bid while individuals are watching through over-the-top streaming content.
Wow. So they're bidding on ads depending on supply and demand.
Correct. In real time.
Wow. That's amazing. So you don't really know what your media buy is going to be because you don't know what you're going to get the ad for?
So
because if you're bidding in real time, how do you know what you're going to pay?
So you'll ultimately pay an amount on a monthly basis, but each time that you're actually bidding, yes, it's a cost that incurs a bigger cost.
So it sounds like they're selling bulk buys at a certain amount, and then they'll place as many as they can to use up that budget.
Correct. So typically what happens is when I look at the inventory, I'll be able to say, based on the types of targeting that we're going to focus on, we're realistically going to be paying X amount of dollars in 1,000 views. So it's all CPM based. So I'm going to say, okay, the average targeting strategy is looking at $20 cost per 1,000 impressions, and we have X amount of budget. So we are looking at this many views overall.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I have a pretty good gauge, but I'm in the platform daily to try to do better than that. Like at the end of the day, I obviously would love to give estimates for our clients to understand what their advertising dollars are going to get them, but we always try to surpass that. So we're in those platforms every day saying, is this exchange doing well for us? Is this targeting tactic really supporting our efforts? I don't know. And we make those changes on the fly. That's one of the benefits to being able to use a programmatic DSP. I have full control. So I can go in every day and say, this is working or this is not working. We need to change it. I can change the creative on a whim. I can do what I need to do in order to have our campaigns be successful. I have a ton of transparency and insight into our metrics. It just gives me the ability to service the client and be able to, at the end of the day, deliver on our goals.
Great. So there's so much out there now, right? It's so hard. I mean, if you're a scrappy entrepreneur trying to place your own advertising, I think what Zach and the agency can bring you is really firsthand knowledge of all the opportunities out there. And if a client is able to determine and give us a budget, it's our job then to take that budget and get the best reach and frequency for them. We're master negotiators. We understand creative. We can do research to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And in the end, it sounds like all this digital is so hard. How many years? You've been at this 10 years?
Yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years.
And then have you taken a lot of class? Like, how did you learn all this?
Yeah, you're in the platforms every day, right? So I feel like every day is a day of learning. There is no 2 days that are the same. There's a ton of education I'm doing on the side, outside of work. You can never know too much. The digital ecosystem is constantly evolving. I just feel like every single month new things are coming out, and it's my job and my passion to continue expanding my education and being able to share that with people and our clients.
Do you think, I think some scrappy entrepreneurs think using an agency, they can do it themselves and save money. What's the value that you would bring to your clients?
The value at the end of the day is, I think that a lot of scrappy entrepreneurs, they do have the passion and the motivation to do it, but I don't know if necessarily it's going to be worth spending all that time, and I don't know if they're going to get the right results. At the end of the day, it's our job to be able to holistically look at a campaign and say, we've got a problem here, or we need to mix up the creative, or we need to do a lot more research to really understand what's engaging this client, or what types of different media vehicles we should focus on. It is our job to put together sound strategies and execute and deliver, and we do it on a daily basis.
Right. We also have clients and some people, I see people spending a lot of money placing digital ads, but then they put nothing into their creative, and their message just sucks. Let's be real. And it doesn't move the needle. And you really got to think about the message and the segmentation and what you're saying. Will it draw what you want it to do? So creative is so important in digital, correct?
Yes. So creative and messaging is the most important thing. Everyone thinks if I place it on the right channel, they'll come. And at the end of the day, you just need to make sure that you have a message that's resonating and that your audience is engaging with. There's a ton of ways to test. There's a lot of cool opportunities. All those social platforms have algorithms specifically designed to find creative that's working and put dollars behind that creative versus other creative. It makes it very easy for us to upload new content on a weekly basis should we need to. There are some clients we have that are very motivated by the right message, and it shows in the results.
Right.
And some clients that will give us the creative, will run it, and then it will be my job to really look at it and say, these are opportunities for improvement, but it's really up to the client to say, okay, I want to take that next step, or it's not worth it. And a lot of times people don't necessarily see the value when really you could get twice as many leads, or you can get 50% more viability of a lead. At the end of the day, it's the bottom line to your business and the return on investment for a campaign.
Right. So before we wrap up, I just want to ask you, what does the future hold for our scrappy entrepreneurs with digital? Like what's new and what's coming down the pike with digital?
What's coming down the pike with digital?
Except for everything.
Yeah.
What is Twitch?
Twitch. we're gonna have to edit that out. I don't know.
Does that need to be a whole nother podcast?
Twitch. It's funny. There are a lot of
and TikTok.
So the way digital works, which I love, is that new products come out, and it does take some time for the market to decide if this product is going to be a product that stays in the market or doesn't. So let's take Snapchat, for example. Snapchat blew up in the beginning.
Right.
And now it's really diminished a lot.
Really?
It's still valuable, especially for particular audience segments. But I would say that at one point it had a huge active monthly user base and it dropped significantly.
Wow. I know people think Facebook is dead and I just don't see it. Everybody's on Facebook.
Facebook is a $20 billion a year advertising conglomerate. Yeah,
right.
It's not going anywhere right now. And the second biggest channel is Instagram, which is also under the big blue, is what they call it, under the Facebook.
I love Instagram. Yeah. It's my favorite, other than LinkedIn, of course.
So like it varies. And I think TikTok is interesting because I've seen a lot of articles saying you got to be where it is. And then I've seen a lot of articles saying it's dying down. I think that it's important as a marketer or as a brand owner to look at new products that are coming out there and saying, I'm not just going to do it because it's available to me, but does it make sense? And if it does, test it.
Right.
I think that at the end of the day, the value with digital is that you can test and it gives you a lot of insight, and you can take those insights and you could do something with them that expands whatever you plan to do with that particular channel, right? So like maybe you realize that TikTok is very valuable for you. Maybe you're getting a ton of engagement on it. There's a value. So I definitely think it's worth taking a look at new products and services out there and saying, if this is something that I think would be valuable for me, I'm going to give it a chance. And if it's not, maybe I just wait and see if it's going to be around for a little while longer.
Right.
I think it's important to come up with that distinction.
Well, thanks for coming in today on a Friday afternoon, Zach.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll have you back and we'll talk about Twitch.
Perfect.
Have a great weekend. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening today. And if we brought you any value, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. Also, make sure to connect with us on Facebook. Our Facebook group is Scrappy Entrepreneurs. And on Instagram, the.scrappy.entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Paula Y. Until next week, stay scrappy.